Well, Razorback fans, you got yourself a bowl victory. The Liberty Bowl victory over Texas Tech was pretty fun, looked pretty good, but what do you make of it? Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Neighbors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend as we are getting closer to the end of the year, which we'll be doing a little fun thing for the end of the year, like a year in review type of thing when it comes to Razorback athletics in 2024. But we'll also have some other things to talk about, some controversy dealing with the Razorback football team here in a little bit. But we got to start, of course, with something we discussed and had known for weeks and what it was going to look like with Arkansas playing in the Liberty Bowl against Texas Tech. And I was one of those, if you listen to me here on this podcast, I was not a fan of it. I was not excited about it. I was not looking forward to it. And there was really not much I was going to take from it. But I do want to give credit where credit is due. This is a situation with a Razorback football team that could have easily just keeled over and died, just rolled over and gave up on everything, not caring about anybody, not caring about this game, not caring about a win, just going through the motions, anything like that. They had every reason and every excuse to do it, but they didn't. They didn't. They fought hard. They played well for all things considered. And it was a pretty entertaining game with some really big playmaking ability. So I really appreciated the fact that they did that. I made the trip over to Memphis. I did a there and back, which I don't ever want to do again. It's 6 hours from Fayetteville, essentially. So I was 6 hours there, 6 hours back. I got home at about 3:30 in the morning. But yeah, not something I'd ever recommend. But I'm glad I went, because I not only get to talk to a lot of you who listen to the podcast, which is really cool, but also just got to see in person of some of the things that Arkansas was able to do and do really well. And some guys having their last game as a college athlete, and in some cases, their last game of as a Razorback. But we'll start with the offense. Now, Arkansas put up 39 points in this game, and everyone knew it was all going to be about Taylen Green, because Taylen Green is really the offensive playmaker who's quarterback one. He's QB1 now. He will be QB1 next season. And everyone was waiting to see, okay, he lost all of his wide receivers, essentially. He has almost none of his running backs back. He has no tight ends. Offensive line is completely different. So what is this going to look like? You still got Bobby Petrino. You still got Taylen Green, but what is this going to look like? Well, Taylen Green was pretty much unstoppable. He could have done whatever he wanted in this game. Not saying he was free of mistakes, but for crying out loud, he went 11 of 21 for 341 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So 52% completion percentage isn't that high, but that yardage is incredible. 341 yards, and that was through the air. And on the ground, 15 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. And of course, they're always going to factor in times he was sacked in this game and stuff. So, you got to keep that into consideration. But just outstanding performance. Outstanding performance by Taylen Green, all things considered. He was able to do it just look like the vintage Taylen Green. Again, you want those completion percentages up. But when he was out on the run, when he was rolling out to the right, making some really great throws downfield, making some great throws in really crucial situations, and then having good decision-making on when to take off running and how impactful it was. He even had a long run of 27 yards in this game. So just Taylen Green was that guy, and he did a great job of it. And the guys he threw it to was the fascinating deal, because you had C.J. Brown led the team in receptions. He had 4 catches for 50 yards in this one, and he was targeted 4 times. So every time he was targeted, he made the catch. Then the big interesting one was Dazmin James, made the play of the day. I wish I could show it, but broke a record. Arkansas's longest completion in Razorback history, 94 yards. Previously breaking the record that was set in 2002 with Matt Jones to Richard Smith for 92 yards against Tennessee. So that was very early in the game, and man, he turned on the Jets. It was incredible to see that. I knew who Dazmin James was, and I know he was on the team and whatnot, but to see that sheer athleticism and that speed was really incredible. And just he had a phenomenal game. 3 catches, 137 yards, and a touchdown. So just really did a great job. Isaac Tesla in his final game as a Razorback also had a really nice game. 3 catches, 107 yards, was targeted 5 times. And it really sucks, though, because he had that touchdown get called back because of the review, but one of the great celebrations standing up on his head. I love that stuff. I know some people didn't. I loved it. It's a bowl game, for crying out loud. And if you're going to go out your way, go out having some fun. I just really hate that touchdown did not count because the celebration was worth it, and he deserved it too. But they ended up punching it in anyways, and so really, really good from them. And then the rushing attack, we mentioned Taylen Green. Rodney Hill was the guy who also had 81 yards, mainly due to the fact that he had a 70-yard run there. That always helps, but he had 8 attempts for 81 yards. And Braylon Russell, I was interested in how he was going to play and how much he was going to look like, and, being out there and with all this crazy drama that was surrounding it. The dude got 20 carries, but only had 50 yards, 2.5 yards a carry. So they were clogging him up pretty good in that one. But yeah, Hatton and Tyrell Reed with a carry and 8 yards. And I also want to give a shout out, offensively, obviously, for what they did, but also shout out to Matthew Shipley. I mean, the guy hit all 3 of his field goals, and he only missed 2 on the season, folks. We can talk all about the kicking and how bad it was, but he went 10 of 12. I mean, he only missed 2 field goals this season. And it makes you wonder, why was he not playing the field goal guy at the very beginning instead of Ramsey, who was struggling? I don't know. We'll never know, but still. Good performance out of that. And then on the defensive side, too, Xavian Sorey, he may have been one of the coolest things I thought about this game. And it's not being talked about enough, because you talk about somebody who, 5-star player coming out of college or coming out of high school, goes to Georgia, doesn't get really much playing time, and then goes to Arkansas and is a solid linebacker. Like, he's not bad. Solid linebacker. And he was one of the guys that from the very beginning was like, I'm coming back to Arkansas. It's where I want to be. So he didn't play with anything. He didn't venture out. He wanted to stay at Arkansas, and he goes out there and he has a great game. 10 total tackles. 5 of them solo, had a tackle for loss, had a monstrous hit. Him and Anthony Switzer both had monster hits in this game, which was great to see. So I love seeing that from Xavian Sorey. My guy, the no-fly zone, Hudson Clark, in his final game as a Razorback, had six tackles, 1 pass breakup, so love to see that. Larry Worth had I believe, a tackle for loss in this game. There's only one sack that Arkansas had, and it was Anton Junkaj, and it was a big one. Because it's great to see him, because he could come back next season. But that was for a safety. So that was very, very, very much needed in that particular case. But yeah, just really good stuff there from them. And then also a few interceptions. You had Miguel Mitchell get a pick, as well as Cuddy and Marquise Robinson. He got a pick. Arkansas came out firing, came out just guns blazing in the beginning of this game. And then almost in classic fashion, the Texas Tech started making some plays, and they started putting some things together. Made a little bit of a run, but Arkansas was able to come up with some big plays, stretch out their lead, and never really look back. So we're going to talk about Taylen Green specifically here in a second, but I was really pleased to see that type of effort, that type of performance. It was fun. It was a fun game to watch. I know Razorback fans, a lot of you that I've talked to, they're like, hey, it was just fun to see big plays and see offense and see some fun and some celebrations and see some players that had their moments and everything. And that's really what the bowl games have always supposed to be about, and that I've always at least wanted them to be about, is that particular deal. So I'm happy that it worked out that way. I really am. And I'm happy for all the players that played in their final game at Arkansas. And, hopefully it's a lot of them that, whether it's going pro or in something else, I wish them nothing but the best of luck. But I say all of that, and not to be like the Johnny Raincloud situation, but I say all of that while also understanding, and hopefully all of you do too, it's a great game, but there's so much that's going to be different about this team, about this roster, and everything that we can't even really count on it. Like, we can't just sit back and be like, oh, well, because of this win, we saw like Dazmin James, for instance. it's awesome. Like, I love that. And I hope Dazmin James has a great year. But it's just really tough to take from one bowl game in the Liberty Bowl to be like, oh, okay, well, this is going to be the guy next year. Maybe. It'd be awesome, but we just don't know. And I've always felt like when it comes to players and personnel and everybody, if somebody didn't play throughout the year, there's reasons for it. So keep it in perspective. But I'm giving credit. Giving credit to Sam Pittman, giving credit to the staff, giving credit to the team. You took it seriously. You wanted to win. You wanted to perform well, and you did. It could have been easy for you to just roll over and die, but you went out there with who you had, and you took care of business. You got the dub. And it was just good to see smiling faces. Apparently, as much as I hate the Liberty Bowl, though, Arkansas is a dominant force in the Liberty Bowl. They never lose. So maybe that's why they love going over there so much. But they got a lot of work to do, though, still in the offseason, still in the transfer portal. I believe the way that the NCAA works is that Arkansas has 5 days after their bowl game concludes for anybody else that wants to enter into the portal for that to happen, even though the NCAA portal closed on Saturday. So there could be a chance that something like that happens. Not saying it will, but there's a chance. But we'll have to just take into consideration for it. But kudos to you, Razorbacks. I'll probably do a season in review maybe here over the next few days and really get into it a little bit. And I want to talk about Taylen Green next because he deserves his own segment to be discussed. And we'll do that here in a second. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, all you Razorback fans, did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Well, that definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize that I was paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel all your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. And it's that subscription tracker that's always going to be helpful to you. There's so many things I guarantee you that you don't even realize you have a subscription to. You signed up for once and you forgot about. Well, Rocket Money is going to help you find it, eliminate it, and save you money in the long run. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I want to talk about Taylen Green. Because with the bowl mania leading up into it, with the transfer portal and all of that, I think I even did a segment on this similar to this a week or so ago, where everything was being talked about of who's gone and who's coming in. But there really wasn't a whole lot of talk on who's staying. And the reason being is because there really wasn't many people that were staying that were contributors to the previous season. I mean, we've gone over it like crazy, but either players ran out of eligibility, players are heading into the portal, players just aren't playing, whatever it is. But without question, the most important position is quarterback. And without question, Taylen Green was the most fascinating thing about it, where, you know, having a starting quarterback for back-to-back straight years almost seems like an anomaly now. And that's how crazy it is. But he stayed. He stayed at Arkansas. He stayed in this position, and he wanted to remain QB1, even though he's going to have a new offensive line, new wide receiving core, new running backs, new tight ends, new everything. He wanted to stay. And now that his season had comes to an end, and we see the entire body of work in year one, these are his stats that he finished with, folks. For the entire season, when it comes to completion percentage, all that stuff, he completed 60.4% of his passes this year. He threw for 3,154 yards. while also rushing for 602 yards. Let's do the math on that. It's about 3,800 yards, close to it. He also threw for 15 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions, but rushed for 8 touchdowns. So if you want to put it all together, he essentially was responsible for 3,800 total yards and 23 total touchdowns. Folks, I think if you look at what the expectation was for Taylen Green walking into the situation he did at Arkansas and being the guy that he was supposed to be here at Arkansas, for him to do what he did, how he did it, I would even make the argument that he exceeded the expectation. He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. Sometimes he had bad throws. Sometimes he had bad games. Sometimes maybe the moment was a little too big for him. Sometimes he got sacked a lot, which he did, 32 sacks on the season, just a normal amount. Sometimes that just happened that way. So I'm not going to try to sit here and convince anybody that he was perfect by any stretch. But to see what he could do in so many of these different moments and how he improved, in my opinion, as the season went on. I mean, if you think about it, the easier part of Arkansas' schedule, folks, Taylen Green, like UAPB, he had 70% completion, but then Oklahoma State, 58, UAB, 42, Auburn, 44, A&M, 56. That was his completion percentage in the first 5 games. That's bad. Granted, he was still doing some other things too that were really nice. And Arkansas won 3 of those games, but the completion percentage wasn't there. But then you see A&M goes 56, but then Tennessee 70, LSU 67, Mississippi State 79, Ole Miss, I know the game that they lost and got blown out, but 71, Texas 68. He got better. He got better as the season went on and improved on his game and his decision-making and everything. And when I look at all of that and knowing what the expectation was for him walking in and knowing what he was able to do as the season came to an end, I feel so much better about next season at the quarterback position than I have probably in a bit. Because I was a big fan of KJ Jefferson, but I felt like KJ Jefferson always had that kind of that ceiling, where it was like, he's going to be that guy who throws for 2,500 yards, maybe rushes for 600 to 700 yards, and that's it. Like he would do a lot of improvisation and everything. But with Taylen Green, I look at him as a much better thrower, a much better decision maker, a much better leader, a much better runner. And what's also helpful for him is having a much better offensive mind that's fitting for what he's trying to do. I think Taylen Green next season, there is potential. There's potential that next season he could be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. He's not going to be preseason all SEC or anything like that. But given his numbers and given the trajectory of the improvement side of things and all of that, I believe that he will be in a great position to be great, to do great things, and to be that leader in that, taking that next step as a quarterback needs to each and every time. So I can't wait to see it. But I'm glad he's staying. I'm glad he's the quarterback. And some people who still aren't sure about Taylen Green, whatever it is, I don't know what to tell you, because he's your QB1, and I think he's going to be really, really good next season too. We'll get into a final segment with a little controversy that was surrounding Fernando Carmona here in just a second. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Folks, a lot of you probably know about this situation as it was something that formulated on social media and whatnot. Arkansas beat Texas Tech and all of that. It was pretty much dominance and everything. But there was a tweet that came out from CJ Hounds, who I guess is the safety for Texas Tech. And he had posted on social media a screen recording of the fourth quarter, 2 minutes to go, showed Fernando Carmona, the offensive lineman for Arkansas, stepping on his ankle. He said in the tweet, There's no denying that Arkansas played a great game last night. I am not taking that away from them. But number 55, Fernando Carmona, blatantly stepping on my ankle and pressing on it on purpose is straight up dirty. Proceeds to say, got your bleep, do better at Razorback football. And I saw the video, and I would play it, but I'd get demonetized. But if you haven't seen it, go on social media. I watched it. I saw it. And it's not a good look. Plain and simple. I don't know what was said before. I don't know what was done or anything like that. And if there was anything done, then that also needs to be taken care of accordingly. But you just can't do that. Like that's not something you should ever do. Ever. There's no place for it in the game at all. 100%. However, that particular act in that moment does not deserve some of the insane reaction, overreaction that went Fernando Carmona's way on social media. People were waiting on Carmona. What was he going to do? Was he, is he going to respond to this? Was Sam Pittman going to say anything about it? Like, how is this going to go? So it was just one of those things to where I laugh about it now because of how ridiculous it is and how ridiculous, or at least how ridiculous it was to people who was making such a big deal out of it. But I just felt like the ones that were calling for his scholarship to be revoked, the ones that were saying he should never play football ever again, that was the stuff that was just a little too much. But either way, Fernando Carmona came out on social media and he said, "I'd like to apologize for my actions last Friday night in the Liberty Bowl. I let my emotions get away from me. I have nothing but respect for Texas Tech in the game of football. I apologize to the team and coaches. I'm not that kind of player, and we'll learn from this." It's totally fine. But everybody comes after him once again. Everybody. A lot of Texas Tech people saying, you should, like some people are saying charge him with an assault and everything. Folks, I know it's not Razorback fans mainly doing this. It was just idiot Texas Tech fans and idiot fans in general who just want to be pissed off about something. Fernando Carmona should not have done it. 100%. I am not at all like allowing that or condoning it or anything. He should have consequences. There should be. And for his actions. And I give him credit for apologizing. And I'm not one of these people that can sit there and read a tweet and say, I can tell if someone's actually apologizing or not. Like that what's going on in their heart. I have no idea. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And mainly due to the fact that, for as far as I know, and at least there may have been some other things too. I think in an Ole Miss game they had it. But it's not like he's just been this player that's had these constant issues again and again and again and again. They talked about, I think an Ole Miss player said he had a player put in an arm bar or whatever. And again, it's not like, I'm not condoning it, but there's just a lot of stuff that goes on the football field with the trench play and all that stuff. Talk to any of them. A lot of it's not even caught on camera. Not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's the way it is. So he needs to pay some consequences. He owned up to it. He apologized. I'm going to give him that benefit. But the people that think that he needs to be just run out on a rail, never to play football again, be charged with assault, scholarship revoked, life needs to be ruined, his career needs to be ruined, stop. Okay? That you don't have to have one way or the other. It doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. Sometimes you just have people pay for their actions accordingly. That's not something that needs to happen. He never needs to do that again. He never needs to act that way. He never needs to step on someone's ankle like that. 100%. Agree. Should not happen. And again, there should be consequences. But the idea that some people have of just seeing that one action and taking it to a whole nother level of just coming out and trying to ruin a kid's career and saying that he should never play the game of football again because of that is absurd. It's stupid. And it just is a microcosm of how idiotic fan bases can be, how overzealous fan bases can be, and how quick to jump to conclusions people can be too. It's just really annoying to me. So, yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you disagree. But I'm trying to look at it from a logical perspective instead of just flying off the handle. Because I know some people are going to be in the comment section saying, oh, but if this was the opposite way, you'd say the same thing. I would want there to be some justice. I'd want there to be consequences, but I wouldn't be screaming at the top of my lungs, tagging every single Twitter account with like Sam Pittman and all this stuff saying, this kid needs to be banished. He should no longer ever be allowed to play again. That's dumb. That's dumb. I had people commenting on videos I posted 4 weeks ago. Just like number 55 is trash. I'm like, y'all need to relax. Chill out. Let it be handled. See where it goes. That's it. Okay? Moving on. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Neighbors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. We'll see you then.